Good morning. As we go to the Chitas of today, we're holding the portion of Pekudei. We're holding on chapter 39, verse number 20, verse number 2. Vayasas ephod, and then he did the ephods of Tchelas Vargamon. His last shani, he made it out of gold, Turkish wool, purple wool, scarlet wool, twined linen. And then he hammered out sheets of gold. The kitzis psilim, and he cut them into threads. To be intertwined between the Turkish wool purple and the scarlet wool and the fine linen. And this was a woven design. Rashi says that this is the same root as L'reika Aret, to one who spreads out the land. The meaning of uncle is translated Vidida, they beat, meaning they hammered out sheets of gold, estrandi in Old French, to spread into thin sheets. Here, the Torah teaches you that they spun the gold with other threads. They would beat it out into a thin sheet, cut out threads along the length of the sheet so that the threads would be intertwined into each of the other materials in the breastplate and the ephod, which were recorded and contained gold. The only gold threads, with the one gold thread with each 6 strands of Turkish wool, and similarly with each material. For the threads of each material were composed of 6 strands, and a 7th strand was gold that was spun with them. And that there was gold, there was a gold strand in each one of these strands that he did, that they put together. Sefer says he made 2 shoulder straps for it that were attached at the 2 ends of the ephod. And then the belt that fastened above it was made like it. Kamaseu was made like it. It was made out of zav, tchelas, vargamon, gold, Turkish wool, purple wool, scarlet wool, twined linen. Kashetziva Hashem es Moshe, God commanded Moshe. Verse 6, Vayasis Avnei Hashem, and then he made 2 onyx stones. Zav, mounted in gold settings. These were the 2 onyx stones on top of the shoulders. And 2 chechaisim, and they had within it, engraved within it, was the names of the Jewish people of the 12 tribes. And he fixed them in the upper end of the shoulder straps of the ephod. Zikarim, they said, this was a remembrance of to the Jewish people. God commanded Moshe. Then he made the breastplate, also woven design. Like what he made the ephod. Chelas, Vargama, Mitlashani, he made it out of gold and Turkish wool and purple wool. B'sheish Mazazar, scarlet wool, twin linen. Ravua Yukafel, it was made, a breastplate was folded over into a square. Zeras Arke, Vizeras Rachbe Kafel, a span long and a span wide, was folded over. And they set upon it 4 rows of mounted golden gems. The first row would contain carlin and emeralds and topaz. I bought this in Israel. This is the officially, but here you have the stones, different kind of stones. You can see it. Everything can be bought today. Vatura Sheni, Neifach Sape Veyalim. The second row was red granite, sapphire, and diamonds. Torah Shlishi in the third row was Zichron, agate, and amethyst. Torah Revi, the fourth row was Tarshish, Shoyim, V'yashva, aquamarine, and onyx, and jasper. They were all mounted in a gold setting, a setting of gold. Verse 14, these stones, these gems were bore the name of the Jewish people, the tribes. There were 12 names. On the names of the 12 tribes. Each one had engraved on a signet ring. Al Shmei to the 12 tribes. He made from the edge of the breastplate was of the shoulder straps of the ephod. They were made out of pure gold. Chains braided of a zav tie, they were braided like a cord. And then he made 2 gold settings and 2 gold rings. And he made it on the upper 2 right parts of the chaysh. He made 2 rings. So there were gold chains that were connected to 2 rings that were connected to the shoulder straps. And then he round 2 gold braids, the 2 gold rings in the upper corner of the breastplate. Then he attached the 2 ends of each one to 2 braids of the 2 settings. He then affixed it to the front of the shoulder straps, facing it. And then he made 2 additional gold rings. And he made on the bottom 2 gold rings. On the corner of the edge of the face of the ephod, the rings being attached to the inner fold of the breastplate. Then they made a 3rd set of gold rings, and he attached it to the other edge of the lower end of the 2 shoulder straps at the end of the ephod, next to where the ephod joined the belt of the ephod. Verse 21, he made sure all these rings were there for one reason, to make sure that the ephod stayed in its place. They linked the breastplate by rings into the rings of the ephod with the cord of Turkish wool, so that the breastplate would be connected to the front of the belt of the ephod, so the breastplate would not move. So that the chayshen should not move. From the ephod, as God has commanded Moshe. You realize it says how many times it says Kashatziva Hashem es Moshe, as God commanded Moshe. We now go to the Tanya of the day, and we're holding in the middle of the 24th chapter, not 37th chapter of Tanya. So until now, the Alter Rebbe has spoken of the effect of a mitzvah on the power of one's animal soul used in performing it. He now states that not only one's animal soul ascends from Klippas Nega to holiness when performing a mitzvah, but also all food and drink that sustains one and gave him the strength to perform the mitzvah are likewise elevated by from the domain of Klippas Nega. Based on this idea, the Alter Rebbe explains how the vitality of all physical objects of the world, which is currently draw the vitality from Klippat Noga, which will be elevated in the realm of holiness if he uses out his strength to learn for the sake of a mitzvah. Every Jewish soul is given the ability and the responsibility to elevate a portion of this physical world which belong to it, to the realm of Klippat Nega. This elevation is accompanied by the means of the 630 mitzvahs, as mentioned. There is, however, 2 categories of mitzvahs: 248 positive commandments and 365 prohibited commandments. Similarly, the elevating effect of a mitzvah on a physical matter takes two forms, one positive and the other one negative, restrictive. To explain the two aspects of elevation accomplished by the two categories of mitzvahs, Alter Rebbe uses for each category an analogy drawn from the human body. 248 positive commandments correspond to the body's 248 limbs. And indeed, the function of these mitzvahs resemble that of a limb. Each organ of the body is a vehicle for a particular faculty of the soul and brings that faculty into active expression. Similarly, every positive mitzvah is a vehicle for the expression for a particular aspect of divine will. And it brings about a godly revelation. The prohibition commandments, numbering 365, corresponds to the 365 blood vessels of the body. Their function, too, is like a blood vessel. The blood vessel acts as a conduit, channeling blood in the right direction, so not be randomly wasteful, dispersed throughout the body. Similarly, the prohibitive commandment prevent the life force of holiness from being funneled off into klippas, thereby increasing their power. They channel the life force towards deserving recipient. When all the souls of Israel, representing the vitality of all physical matter, fulfill all commandments, drawing down God's light by performing the positive mitzvahs, and confining it in the realm of holiness by observing the prohibited mitzvahs, they elevate the vitality of the entire world from klippas nega to holiness. That's the whole process. This summary is the subject of the following discussion. Let's learn it in the Alter Rebbe. Additional virtue of a mitzvah involving action. Find this function of elevating one's animal soul, mentioned above. The vitalizing soul energy clothes itself in the utterance of the letters of one's speech. The Torah study, Talmud Torah, when he davens. And likewise, energy clothes in the performance of all mitzvahs, any mitzvah that's involved, most mitzvahs are involved in the concept of action. Derive their entire growth and vitality from the blood, everything channeled through the blood. Which the blood, with the animalistic soul, is situated, as we learned in Tanya, in the blood. Kadamu nefesh, as the pasuk says, your blood is your soul. So if you want to really know what your animalistic soul is really connected to the blood, and that's why Alter Rebbe is going to say it's connected to the concept of the 365 negative commandments. Your godly soul is connected to the concept of doing your 48 positive commandments. Your animal soul is more connected to your concept of your blood. They were under the domain of klippas nega. You knew when they draw the vitality from it. And now, when I don't do an aveda, and now when the person performs a mitzvah with the energy derived from the food and drink, now it goes, right? Because also your blood comes from your food. So now everything is elevated. The klippa is transformed from evil to good and is absorbed into holiness by the means of the energy of the animal soul that grows from it. The energy nourished by those objects that derive from the vitality from this klippa. So now everything is elevated. So the shlab is basis elu, because when you daven, you learn, you say words of Torah, you do an action of a mitzvah. It's all done through the vitality of my body, which came through the vitality of this food. So now I'm elevating everything, which has now clothed itself into the letters of Torah and prayer, or in the performance of mitzvahs. But again, it all comes to the same connection, which is all connected I'm doing this mitzvah, I'm learning this Torah, all connected to the Ratzon of the Eibishter, the true will of God, which again is the pnimius, is the inner aspect of everything. What is the inner aspect of everything? This world and everything that's in it is all for the Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because that's what God willed. God willed the world, and God willed that I should do a mitzvah with this world. Belishum est upon him. When you talk about God's will, the Alter Rebbe keeps on saying this over and over again, that the Ratzon of the Eibishter, when we do the Ratzon of God, then there's no concept of unveiled expression. There's no concept of a hidden concept here. There's no hiddenness in the Ratzon of God. There's no hiddenness. There's total clarity. This is what God wanted. In the Chachma of the Eibishter, in the wisdom of God, say ultimately, even all the wisdom that I comprehend, I'm far away from it. But in the Ratzon of the Eibishter, what God wanted, it's very clear. There's no doubt what God wanted. It's a pasuk, there's a verse, there's an open concept. So that's what God wanted. What God had in mind with it, we can learn and learn and learn and learn and learn and never get to the essence of what God had in mind in it. But into the aspect of the Ratzon of the Eibush, there's no veils. It's an open verse. It's an open verse. The 613 commandments are an open verse. It's available for everybody to learn. There's no hidden secrets over here. So therefore, there's no concept of something that's veiled over here. It's unveiled. Beli shum est upon him. There's no hiddenness in anything that God wishes. He says it openly in the Torah. All the commandments. You can look at the Rambam. You can learn all the 613 commandments. And it's all based on the Torah. And there's no concept of anything that we don't know what God wishes. And so therefore, when a Yid does a mitzvah, that's what the greatness of a mitzvah, even over Limud Torah. Because Torah is connected to me still, my wisdom. I have to learn Torah. But a mitzvah I have to do. We say he sanctified us. That's why Torah also has the mitzvah of learning Torah also. So there's a mitzvah of learning Torah too. That I just learn Chachma of the Eibush. I just learn, not to per se understand it totally, but just to learn what God wanted. And their vitality, the vitality expanded in the performance of mitzvahs, is also absorbed, like the mitzvah itself, into the blessed Havaya, Shurat again, which is the will of God as expressed in this mitzvah. That's why we should do it's very easy to do every mitzvah lishma. Everybody can do every mitzvah lishma, because a mitzvah is kabbalas oil. The mitzvah is a concept of accepting the yoke. Everybody can accept the yoke, whether you're smart, whether you're not so smart. Actually, it's much easier to be kabbalas oil, to accept the yoke of heaven, when you're not such a genius. Geniuses have a problem with accepting the yoke of heaven. But if you're a simple Jew, and you're not such a great Talmid Chacham, you're not such a great genius, it's very easy. We accept the yoke of heaven. This is what God says. This is what we do. We're smarter. We know that we'll never understand maybe the essence of the issue, and therefore we accept the yoke of heaven. This is what the Eibishter wants. This is what God wants. This is what we do. And that's the true concept. Really, even the smart Jew realizes that how much he understands. He still does it. Why? Because this is what God wants him to do. That's why a mitzvah is an equalizer by all Jews. Wisdom, you have great sages and you have not such great sages. And you have people that are not sages at all. But in the concept of a mitzvah, a Jew puts on tefillin like Moshe Rabbeinu put on tefillin. Like the greatest tzaddik that he knows put on tefillin. Because we all did the mitzvah. And that's it. We did a mitzvah. Why? And we said the same bracha. Every Jew says the same bracha over every mitzvah. Why? Because that's the Ratzon of the Eibishter. Sure, there's a great wisdom in every mitzvah. There's a great chachma No question about it. That is the chachma of the Eibishter in every mitzvah. But really, what's the mitzvah? Is the rotzen, the will of God, the wish of God. And with their vitality, the energy of the animal soul is likewise elevated and absorbed into this infinite light. And since the energy necessary for mitzvahs was supplied by the food and drink, the vitality of the food and drink is likewise absorbed in this infinite light. Together with the mitzvah which performed was made it possible. Like days that talagam ke klolos klippus nega, and thereby all klippus nega. Talagam ke klolos klippus nega, she klolos chay shaloyla mazeh, which if you want to talk, it means the whole world will ascend as well. As you can imagine, every piece of bread you eat, you buy in a store. How many people, farmers, and how many people were involved from the farming to the baking? How many people were involved in the making of that piece of bread? So many people and hours and vitality and strength was all put into that piece of bread. And when I make a bracha and I use out this piece of bread for holy matters to give me strength to do Torah mitzvahs, I've elevated all those people. I've elevated everybody with me. Think about it. How many people are involved? How many people are involved making the machinery for that making, either plowing, reaping, or the bakery, etc. How many people are involved in it? Thousands, Mr. Robley. And I've elevated the whole world. I've elevated the whole world. So when will this come about? The whole neshama, the divine soul of all of Israel, which is divided into 6,000 particular offshoots. The standard figure for the Jewish nation, all individual soul being further subdivided of these 600,000 general souls. I'll explain further. So you have 600,000 times 600,000 is a lot of souls. The sky in pratis will fulfill each individual soul the 630 commandments. Some it just lays us will refrain from the transgression of 365 prohibited. To restrain the 365 blood vessels of the animal soul that's in the body. So that they would not draw nurture or receive vitality by the means which of such a transgression from any of the three incompletely unclippers. Which come from the 365 biblical prohibitions. And all their offshoots. Which is the rabbis. Since all that derive from the vitality of the three unholy clippers cannot rise into holiness, were a Jew to transgress any prohibition, and thereby cause the particular blood vessel associated with that prohibition to receive vitality from clipper. And when you give the vitality to one of those blood vessels, you're giving vitality to the whole body. What happens is now, since there's a vessel that is feeding blood, that is feeding vitality to impurity, so now my body is impure. I've impurified my body. And now my godly soul is handicapped, so to say. Can no longer ascend to God, having been tainted by the impurity of the three impure clippers. For these clippers can never be elevated unless you nullify it and utterly destroy, you do tshuva. As is brought down in Pasuk, ultimately, the Eibishter God banished unclean spirits from the earth. Similarly, anything that derives its vitality from then can never ascend to holy, because it's the Aveda. Only the observance of all 365 prohibited prohibitions allows the entire vital soul to ascend without any part of it held back by the impurity of the clip. That's the negative. That's why we have to be careful in the negative. We have to be careful in the negative. When furthermore, every individual soul will fulfill 248 positive commandments, which is to draw godliness, blessed and safe into this world. To elevate to him, to God, and to bind and unite with him, God, the entire vital soul, which is in the 248 limbs of the body, the perfect unity. Such is the effect of a mitzvah, is uniting the vital soul with the godly soul, with God, so that they become actual one with him. Because this again, the Alter Rebbe says this many times, this again is the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This again is in accordance with his will, that the bee be in a boat for him in this law. Again, this all goes to the beginning of this chapter. And again, the Sava Kodesh Baruch Hu Lias like did it, but the Eibishter God had the desire to have a dwelling place in this lower world. And that should become a chariot of God as the patriarchs. So in accordance with the will with his will, that there be in a boat for him in the solar realm, and so great is the unity that the limbs of the body, with the vitality of the animal soul invested in them, become a chariot for God, as were the patriarchs, whose every limb was total submission to the divine will. Therefore, they are designated as God's chariots. So will every Jew become a chariot by performing mitzvahs. And that completed the Tanya of the day. Today is the 24th day of the month, my friends. And it's in chapter 113 to chapter 118, you do the chitas of the day. The Rebbe writes today in Ayom Yom, Rabbeinu Parcher, question whether to review Chassidus even in towns where people have no conception of Chassidus. He asked a question to the second Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Mittel Rebbe. The Mittel Rebbe responded, the soul hears words of Chassidus. It is written, following from Lebanon. Pasuk says, flowing from Lebanon. Lebanon is spelled in Hebrew, Lev Nun. Lebanon thus represents Chachma and Bina of the soul. When the soul hears and there issues a flow, a stream or droplets into that radiance or hara of the soul, which vitalizes the body, the result is a strengthening of do good, expressed in the 248 positive commandments, and turn away from evil, expressed in the 365 negative commandments. If you think of divine providence, we're simply learning something we learned today in Tanya. Number 2 is, when saying the bracha, look at or picture in thought the divine names formed in the acronym of the words. By Ana B'Chayach, look at Ana B'Chayach that we say on every day in davening. You say it quietly. It says, don't say Ana B'Chayach aloud, because it has within it divine names of God, the 72 names of God. It's brought down. You don't say the 72 names. We don't say those names. We look at it, but don't pronounce them. My friends, I wish you all a wonderful and beautiful and happy day. And Mitzvah, we'll see you all tomorrow. And I'll give you a bracha. Tomorrow is my birthday, so I'll give you all a blessing at the end of my class. And I'll see you all tomorrow at 8 o'clock. We'll continue to learn the chitas of the day.
We're counting on it. We're counting on that